All right, I now call to order this October 21st, 2020 land use public hearing. And before we begin, I'd like to ask you to join me in a pledge of allegiance. So, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Great. All right, now is the time that has been set to consider an application by Brook Trout Properties, LLC, to change the comprehensive plan designation of the subject property from medium density residential to light industrial, and to change the zoning designation of the subject property from medium density residential to light industrial on property located at 16147 Southeast 135th Avenue. Hearing will proceed as follows. We'll first hear staff presentation from Senior Planner Glenn Hamburg. The applicant will then have up to 15 minutes to present. Then I will open the hearing for public testimony, beginning with public officials who will have 5 minutes each. Then representatives from recognized community planning organizations and agencies will have 3 minutes each. Finally, other people wishing to testify will have 3 minutes each. The board will then deliberate and either render a decision today or set a time to make a decision at a later date. Assisting us in the hearing today is our clerk, Christina Terwilliger, Senior Planner Glenn Hamburg, and Assistant County Counsel Nate Boderman. Assisting with our broadcast and webcast are Garrett Teague, Rich Marvin, and Kevin Galusha. Today, we are holding this land use hearing virtually. If you've joined us on the Zoom app for the meeting, you are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. The Zoom link and instruction to participate via Zoom are located at www.clackamas.us/meetings/BCC/land use. You will have the option of providing your comments to us live during the public comment portion of this meeting. Be sure to include your name and the area where you live. So we'll now start with Mr. Nate Boderman with a legal statement, followed by the planning staff's presentation. Take it away, Nate.
All right, thank you, and good morning, everyone. Now is the time set for the public hearing related to the previously identified comprehensive plan and zone change applications that were mentioned at the top of this meeting. This is a quasi-judicial land use hearing, which means the board is sitting in an adjudicatory capacity, which really means two important things for those wishing to participate here today. First, all of the criteria that can be used in reaching a decision have been identified in the staff report. So any testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards the criteria identified in the staff report or other relevant criteria found in the comprehensive plan or land use regulations that anyone believes may apply to this decision. Accordingly, anyone testifying is asked to please direct your testimony to a relevant approval criterion. Second, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the board and other parties an opportunity to respond to that issue may preclude appeal to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals on that particular issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Once final, these decisions may be appealed to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals. At this time, I'll ask the Board of Commissioners to disclose any ex parte contacts, bias, or conflicts of interest you may have associated with this particular application.
I have none.
Seeing none, if anyone wishes to challenge the impartiality of any commissioner, please do so in your testimony and or in any written testimony that you may provide. So that does it for me, and I believe Glenn Hamburg, Senior Planner, is up next.
Okay.
Good morning. Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Commissioner Schrader and the rest of the board. Glenn Hamburg, Senior Planner with the Planning and Zoning Division. I'm going to share my screen to discuss the staff summary. I hope you all can see it. As Commissioner Schrader noted, this is file Z0299-20-CP and Z0300-20-ZAP. It's a comprehensive plan map amendment and zone change proposal. For simplicity, I'm just going to refer to it as a zone change. The subject property was identified by Commissioner Schrader as 16147 Southeast 135th Avenue in Clackamas, and I'll show you a map of the subject property here briefly. In essence, the proposal is to change the property's land use plan designation and implementing zoning district from its current medium density residential designation to light industrial. The subject property, as I noted, is currently zoned medium density residential, and the proposal is to change it to light industrial for a specific purpose. However, in this application, the proposal is only to change the mapping designation in the zone change. However, the applicant discusses in their application their intention to site on the subject property and on an adjacent property that's already zoned light industrial, a industrial building for a business that will support public infrastructure projects. And the applicant might be able to explain a little bit more about that. But to be clear, the proposal today is not about putting up any new industrial building or seeking approval of any particular industrial use, just to change some official maps. As I'll note again further this morning, the subject property is already designated as industrial in some official maps that Metro uses. In essence, the property has already been assumed to be for industrial uses by Metro in some of its planning purposes. In my presentation, I'll list what the approval criteria are and a couple of comments about how the application satisfies the substantive approval criteria. I'll mention what were a couple of significant issues when this proposal was considered before the Planning Commission. And then I'll finally mention what is staff's and the Planning Commission's recommendation for approval. The subject property is just shy of an acre. It's entirely flat and doesn't have any mapped hazards like floodplains or mass movement hazard areas. It's not in any protected open space area and doesn't have any county protected historic sites. It has approximately 130 feet of frontage on a minor arterial at Southeast 135th Avenue, as I'll show you. A little bit about the surrounding area. Well, just to the west into the south of the subject property, as we'll see, is all industrial already. In fact, just to the west is a property that's in what's called the regionally significant industrial area. And the subject property's western lot line is just about 70 feet away from a 2.5 acre existing industrial building that has freight trucks circling around it, parking lots, etc. There's a lot to the south of the subject property that I'll show you that is, as I mentioned, owned by the applicant and is already zoned light industrial as they intend for this property to be zoned. That property to the south was changed from medium density residential to light industrial about 20 years ago with approval from the Board of County Commissioners. So essentially the same proposal today, the board approved about 18 years ago. And now the applicant is in today in order to have an additional piece rezoned to light industrial as well in order to provide more space for this prospective industrial use. To the east of the property, across 135th Avenue, are some medium density residential parcels, including a mobile home park. But that mobile home park is not accessed from the same street as the subject property. It takes a different access. Finally, to the north is some more medium density residential parcels, but as the applicant has explained, they're currently being used for industrial purposes, despite their underlying zoning designation. And then just further up Southeast 135th to the north are some community commercial zone parcels. You might know these to be the areas where there's that McDonald's and the gas station at the relevant intersection. 3 miles away, there's a Max station, so nothing really close by that residents could walk to if the property was used for its current residential zoning. Clackamas High is probably the nearest school to the subject property, and it's a mile away. There are no TriMet stops on 135th or Jennifer Avenue nearby. The Clackamas River is just a quarter-mile away, but you can't see the subject property from the river, and you can't see the river from the subject property. It's about 60 feet below the elevation of the subject property. This is the subject property here in yellow. And in relation to the Clackamas River, this is Highway 212 and 211. And then this is Southeast 135th Avenue and Southeast Jennifer Street. Here's another image of the subject property, a 2018 aerial image here with the property outlined in blue. This is the regionally significant industrial area that I mentioned in those large existing industrial buildings. And this is the mobile home park. I noted that the mobile home park is not accessed from the same street. These residents are not using this street to get to their homes. Rather, they're accessing it from up here on the highway. Here's another view of the subject property. And this map shows the areas of the city of Happy Valley that are incorporated into the city, shown in light brown, such as these. And then the light green lines are just elevation contour lines. What they indicate is that the area is generally flat. Here's another view of the subject property in the comprehensive plan map. This is a portion of the official map that the applicant proposes to amend so that this property is designated light industrial. And this is a poor image quality of the official zoning map, zoomed all the way in. Here's the subject property, and they intend to change it to light industrial. As for what's on the property today, well, there's an approximately 1,500 square foot unoccupied single family dwelling that was built about 1946. The applicant has reported that the dwelling has not actually been occupied since the last 5 years or so, and maybe it's in a condition where it could not be occupied. The property has about a 300 square foot detached garage, a 2,400 square foot detached shop, and 2 small sheds. Here's an aerial of the property where you can see some of those structures. The house is just right here. This is the light industrial area. This is the parcel the applicant already owns to the south that's zoned light industrial. And these are those medium density residential properties to the north that are actually functionally being used for light industrial purposes today. Here's another view of the subject property with the tax lot lines drawn in. And then finally, an existing conditions map submitted by the applicant. It shows the house here and the storage shed. This is just a rough sketch of how they might develop the property in the future, although to be clear, they're not committed to this. It includes the subject property in the northern portion and then the property to the south that they already own, with this industrial building, approximately 46,000 square feet spanning the both of them. This is a relevant map, the Title IV Metro Functional Plan map that I noted at the outset. These areas in various shades of blue are industrial areas that Metro has prioritized. And you can see that the subject property located about here is already identified as an industrial area. To be clear, the proposal to change the county's plan map, comprehensive plan maps and zoning maps, if approved by the Board of County Commissioners, would bring the county's maps in line with Metro's. Here are some of the approval criteria for the application. They include statewide planning goals. Just a few brief words about these. The staff report details how the proposal is consistent with all of this applicable statewide planning goals and goes into this in further detail. But a quick note about Goal 1, citizen involvement. This application has been processed according to the county's public noticing guidelines that themselves are consistent with Goal 1. And this proposal does not intend to change any of the county's citizen involvement program. Goal 9 relates to economic development, and staff finds that the proposal would increase employment lands that the county has, increasing the opportunity for economic development. Staff has found in the staff report, in the staff summary, how the application is consistent with Goal 10 housing To be sure, the text of Goal 10 has no specific requirements for how we go about evaluating a proposal to redesignate a property from an urban residential use to an urban industrial use. There's also no requirement in Goal 10 for the county to conduct a housing needs analysis or buildable land inventory for every proposal to change a comp plan designation or zone for a particular property. Goal 10 in this particular case is implemented by regulations in Chapter 660, Division 7 of the Oregon Administrative Rules. And I'll say some more words about that here shortly, but staff finds that it's consistent with those regulations. All in all, the proposed zone change would result in what staff finds to be a minimal reduction in the county's zoned housing capacity. Statewide Planning Goal 12 relates to transportation, and the staff report refers to a traffic study with transportation planning rule findings. A licensed engineer has found that that industrial use of the subject property and its resulting traffic could be accommodated by the existing and planned transportation infrastructure of the county. And the county's transportation engineering division has concurred with those results. The application is also subject to certain provisions of the Metro Urban Growth Functional Plan, and the staff report details how this application is consistent with those provisions. Title I, for example, of the Metro Plan relates to housing capacity. It provides two separate opportunities for rezoning a property from residential to industrial. You only have to meet one or the other of these circumstances, and staff finds that they meet both of these circumstances. The Metro Functional Plan, for example, allows for the rezoning if the purpose is for Title IV industrial uses. Well, that's exactly what the applicant is proposing to reduce the residential land capacity for, Title IV industrial uses. But separate from that, staff explains that the proposed capacity reduction would have a negligible effect on the county's overall housing capacity. So we find that it meets both of those opportunities separately. The Metro Urban Growth Functional Plan also has a policy obligating the county to provide and protect a supply of sites for employment, specifically industrial uses. And staff finds that providing more land for industrial uses and allowing the siting of this industrial building would provide those opportunities. On your screen here are a list of policies in the county's comprehensive plan for designating a property as light industrial. I won't go through each of these here, but they're detailed in the staff report and I can discuss them further if you like. Ultimately, staff finds that the proposal is consistent with the county's policies for designating a property as light industrial. I mentioned that there was a couple of significant issues discussed at the Planning Commission public hearing that was held back on September 14th. One of the significant issues relates to just the idea of reducing the zoned multifamily housing capacity of the county. The proposal could reduce the county's multifamily housing capacity by up to 12 units. I say up to 12 units because the particulars of the property and the need to accommodate things like landscaping, parking lots, driveways, etc., may functionally reduce the amount of land where you could put dwelling units on the property, but at most it could, under its present zoning, accommodate 12 dwelling units. Exhibit 11 in the record is a request by a housing advocacy group suggesting that any decision to approve this proposal by the Board of County Commissioners include findings of how the application is consistent with Goal 10, with a link to any relevant housing needs analysis and buildable lands inventory. And that's discussed in the staff report. I noted earlier how Administrative Rule Chapter 660 Division 7 has requirements for this particular zone change and the consideration of housing. Staff identifies in the staff summary how those requirements are met. And we discuss in the staff report how there is sufficient land capacity in the metro urban growth boundary already, according to the applicable housing needs analysis. So you might recall that the county had its own housing needs analysis done in 2019. That housing needs analysis was not formally adopted, and importantly did not consider the county's commercial and I'll say multi-use zones that allow for multifamily housing. It only considered the residential zones. So while it might have found that we need more multifamily housing, it didn't consider all of the areas where we actually allow multifamily housing today. The applicable housing needs analysis, though, for this particular case, according to the OARs, is Metro's urban growth report. And that found that the metro region has a surplus in the zone capacity for multifamily housing. There have been no reductions in zoned housing capacity by Clackamas County in the metro region since. So it's not like since we've done this study, we've been inching back the capacity of multifamily housing. We have not done any reductions up until now. Actually, we have expanded some opportunities and opportunities for increased density in the metro region since. So for example, we've reduced barriers to accessory dwelling units recently. We made it easier for people to put more houses on their properties inside the metro area. And as you know, by 2022, the county will need to have implemented the missing middle housing provisions of HB 2001. So we will be increasing density opportunities even further in the metro region. I already noted that there's no requirement for a new housing needs analysis or buildable lands inventory for this individual zone change. Essentially, Metro every 6 years will take a look itself into the housing capacity of the metro region and adjust the urban growth boundary as appropriate. Staff finds that a reduction in 12 multifamily units, no more than 12 multifamily units, would be minimal, considering all the amount of growth and changes inside of the metro region otherwise. So Metro has looked at this application, and their response is more or less just, it looks pretty straightforward. They're in favor of it because the proposal would bring the application in line with those Title IV maps that I showed you earlier. DLCD has also looked at the application, and they just state that they have no concerns. The only other significant issue discussed at the Planning Commission was just weighing the appropriateness of the property being residential under its current zoning versus industrial. They looked at adjacent industrial uses as they thought about this, and the potential land use conflicts that could occur if this property were to be developed with housing right next to a large regionally significant industrial area, noise, traffic, etc. Southeast 135th Avenue and some existing vegetation along its east side might serve as a logical boundary between these industrial areas on the west side and residential areas on the east side. That was something the Planning Commission discussed as well. They considered that there aren't really nearby services such as a grocery store, schools, transit services that could support residential use of the subject property. But at the same time, there are transportation resources or transportation infrastructure, including the highway, the minor arterial, and the rail system nearby that could support industrial uses. I already noted that the application is consistent with the provisions in the Metro Functional Plan and the County Comprehensive Plan. So considering all this, both staff and the Planning Commission have recommended approval of this application with two sort of routine conditions. The two conditions being that, one, the county's comprehensive plan maps be amended, and that the county's zoning map be amended so that the subject property is identified now as light industrial. That's it for my presentation, but of course, happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right. So does any commissioner have any questions for staff at this time? Nobody.
No hands.
All right, no hands. Okay. All right, now we'll have the public comment portion of the hearing. Is the applicant here to present? The applicant's here?
Yes. Is that Peter Fry?
Okay,
And Maury, both.
Perfect. I will bring them over.
okay.
Okay, Peter Fry and Maury, you are both brought over. You can unmute.
Well, good morning. Would you like to testify, Mr. Fry?
Yes, this is Peter
Maury?
Fry. Thank you for this new experience. Maury and his partner own K&D flagging company. Maury, can you speak now?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Maury Trotman. I live up in Everett, Washington. We own a company, Brook Truck Properties, as the applicant. I'm also involved in another company called K&D Services, which is a traffic management company that's located in Clackamas on the adjacent property. We bought that adjacent property, as was noted by Glenn, about 18 years ago, and went through essentially the same process in getting it converted to light industrial use. And we've had our business located and occupied in that space since then. We have kind of outgrown our facilities there and are in need of expansion. We really would like to stay in the Clackamas area and continue to provide the services that we do from that area. This makes a logical extension of our property. It's adjoining. It fits in with the character of the neighborhood and that kind of thing. And so by having this zoning change and allowing the two contiguous properties to be used in conjunction with each other, it will allow us to put a building of scale on there that makes it commercially viable. In the space that we had before, it really didn't pencil out. And with the addition of this, it would and would allow us to continue to locate our business there for the future.
So this is Peter Fry again. I'm actually a planning consultant, and I've helped Maury the first time many years ago, it seems like now. We have nothing more to add. We think the staff has done a really outstanding job to help us. We did actually meet with the LCD briefly after the Planning Commission hearing to understand more clearly the housing issues and feel that they're more than adequately satisfied by the findings in our application and the staff report and recommendation. So we urge you to adopt it, please. Thank you. And we can answer any questions you have.
Gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, any questions for the applicants? Doesn't seem to be. So let's move through the agenda pretty quickly here. Are there any public officials who wish to testify? Are there any representatives from CPOs or agencies that wish to testify? Are there any members of the public who wish to testify? All right.
I do not see any hands, Vice Chair.
No hands? All right. So we will now close the public comment portion of today's hearing and begin deliberation. So colleagues, it's the discussion, deliberation, and potential motion. So any questions? You're on mute, Ken.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, I move to approve the applicant's application.
Okay.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve. Let me just read this up. So the motion was to approve Z0299-20-CP and Z0300-20-ZAP as recommended by the staff and the county's planning commission. So that was the motion. We've got it on record. So let's call the poll.
Okay. We'll start with Commissioner Fisher.
Aye.
Commissioner Humbertston.
Aye.
Commissioner Savis.
Aye.
And Vice Chair Schrader.
Aye, it is approved. So thank you, everyone. We're delighted that we can have a land use decision that goes so smoothly.
With 678 pages of material, it better go smoothly.
Well, okay. Well, thanks. Yeah, it better be. That'd be good. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. And if we don't see you today, we'll see you tomorrow. All right.
So, Vice Chair, I just have a quick question for you. There is a little bit left of the script for if the application was approved.
Okay.
Thank you, Christina.
The matter. Okay, so the motion has been approved. Is that what you-
If you scroll down just a little bit more, it's on page 5 of the script. Sorry.
To continue. Okay. Okay. Now that the applications have been approved, I will direct staff to draft an order reflecting today's decision and include it on the agenda for the board's adoption of a future business meeting. So now we're officially done. Okay.
And I see some hands raised. Commissioner Savis has his hand raised and Maury has his hand raised.
Okay. Yes.
If you're inclined to take Mr. Maury's comment, go ahead and take his first.
Okay, Mr. Maury.
Allow him to speak. Okay, Mr. Maury, you can unmute.
There I am. Am I unmuted?
Mhm.
I just wanted to say thank you to the commissioners and for hearing this and agreeing with it. Glenn, thank you for all your work in putting this together and all your staff. It was a pleasure working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we do have absolutely wonderful staff. Okay. So, yes, Mr. Savis, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, quite similar. I just want to thank staff for their good work, and this went smoothly, not because of what the commissioners did, but for what staff did. So hats off to a great presentation and helping this constituent get the work done that they need to get done. And always grateful to have businesses in Clackamas County that are doing well and looking towards expanding. And so thank you. Thanks to all of you.
All right. A lot of gratitude today. Okay. Well, with that, I believe, Christina, we can officially adjourn. Am I correct? All right. Well, take care, everybody. Be safe. Be well.